Check your phone, check your email, heck, check your friend requests on PS Plus. You never know where a wild message might come from. We've been so conditioned to respond with dopamine and excitement to any little push notification that I wouldn't be surprised that if getting a message from a literal demon caused one's heart to warm a little. That's right, I said it. When it comes to messages, most of us consider them to be largely digital entities, whether we're leaving a message on someone's voicemail or sending them a message via DM on social media. However, for most of history, messages came in different forms, often passed physically from one person to the next. And sometimes these messages could even come in writing, or maybe just through symbolism. Regardless of how you interpret messages, we've got a big pile of them straight from hell for you today. So it's time to count down our top 5 scary demonic messages from hell. Coming in at number 5, we've got Under the Knife. People often claim to see wild and outrageous things when they undergo dangerous procedures. Car crashes, falls from height, and major surgeries often result in folks experiencing some sort of connection to the other side, whatever that may be. In the SCP universe, you might realize that death is not the end, and you continue to experience everything for all of eternity, from rigor mortis setting in to your lifeless body decomposing underground. You could also look to Martyrs, where they push some poor unfortunate souls to the absolute limits of existence to gain some insight into what might happen post-mortem. The things people see under these circumstances are not often pleasant and can cause significant distress in many. Although there have historically been lots of folks experiencing pleasant sights into the afterlife during near-death experiences. This story is not a nice one though. Reddit user Zushiba told a tale of her aunt undergoing surgery, technically being dead, and then returning to the land of the living. She felt the same force that pulled her out through the ceiling of the hospital start pulling her across a chasm. As she started floating over the chasm, these hands reached out of the blackness and started pulling at her, almost like ripping her flesh from her legs and feet. She says it was the worst feeling of pain and cold she'd ever experienced, and it horrified her. After what seemed like forever, she reached the other side of the chasm and the hands went away. The feeling of pain and terror was replaced with a feeling of happiness and contentment and warmth. Several family members that had been dead for some time were there, and they seemed to be beckoning her over. She was flying to the field when she heard the doctor say something. It sounded like it echoed very loudly from the other side of the chasm. Suddenly, that force pulled her across the chasm again, only this time much faster than she had ever been pulled the first time. Again the hands came, and again the cold. The hands ripped at her, and she felt the pain as she felt before. Finally, she came to the dirt side of the chasm again. Then blackness. Then she was awake in the hospital. Sounds to me like the chasm was waiting for her, eh? Coming in at number 4, we've got Dr. George Ritchie. Near death seems to be a common state in which people receive messages from the afterlife. Not all scary demonic messages from hell come alone either. Sometimes it's a little mix along the same lines of A Christmas Carol. Scrooge gets some hell, some heaven, some purgatory, the works. So why wouldn't that happen to all those getting messages direct from hell? Take George Ritchie, for example. This is a man who actually died of pneumonia for 9 minutes during World War II. However, he miraculously came back to life afterwards and went on to live a rich and full life. During those 9 minutes in which he was pronounced dead, though, he experienced what appeared to be something a whole lot longer. First, he had an out-of-body experience, able to move around on his own free will after an extended stay in a hospital bed. This eventually brought him to an unfamiliar location packed with people he did not recognize. Following a somewhat familiar figure around, he eventually came across who he believed to be Jesus Christ. Dr. Ritchie was then given a total review of his life and all the major events within. From there, he was introduced to spirits among the living, life forces who had not yet departed Earth, and intermingled with those still of the physical realm. They couldn't interact with those who are still alive, but are able to inhabit the same spaces in a way. Not all were just new experiences and opportunities to learn about the universe, though. Dr. Ritchie was then brought to the plane of hell, which altogether cannot be a very pleasant experience. He described it as such. Now, however, although we were apparently still somewhere on the surface of Earth, I could see no living man or woman. The plane was crowded, even jammed with hordes of ghostly, discarnate beings. Nowhere was there a solid, light-surrounded person to be seen. All these thousands of people were apparently no more substantial than I myself, and they were the most frustrated, the angriest, the most completely miserable beings I had ever laid eyes on. At first, I thought we were looking at some great battlefield. Everywhere spirits were locked in what looked like fights to the death. Writhing, punching, gouging. No weapons of any sort I saw as I looked closer, only bare hands and feet and teeth. And then I noticed that no one was apparently being injured. There was no blood, no bodies strewed on the ground. A blow that ought to have eliminated an opponent would leave him exactly as before. If I suspected that I was seeing hell, I was now sure of it. These creatures seemed locked into habits of mind and emotion, into hatred, lust, destructive thought patterns. Hell is like a battlefield, and those who enter will be forever locked in a horrible, violent combat to no end. that is the scary message that Dr. Ritchie brought back from hell. Coming in number 3, we got Monster Energy. Now, I know we've all seen this video at some point or another. It's a bit of a meme at this point. And I'm also not claiming that it's a real message from hell. It's more like a fun little exercise into reading too far into messages. Let me know what you think in the comments. There's a woman presenting at some sort of conference who seems to believe that Monster Energy drink is a tool of the devil, bringing demonic messages to the unaware masses. And while I do believe that energy drinks have a grip on some people in a way that I'll never understand, and that they seem to do a good job at ensuring people rely on their products to participate in capitalist society, I don't know if that means it's evil. Well, actually, wait, we have to stay focused. She believes that the claw marks on the can actually spell out 666 in Hebrew and sees the O with a line in it as a cross. With further inspection, she reveals that there's profanity, mention of MILFs, and more all packed into Monster Energy's marketing. Of course, Monster, or the Beast, can also be considered demonic under certain circumstances. Do you see where she's going with this? By drinking Monster, you are shaking hands with Satan and are probably going to end up in the lake of fire. Better switch to Red Bull. Coming in number 2, we've got the From Hell letter. We'll delve into a bit of serial killer history now with a wonderful letter sent to the leader of a vigilance committee in London. We are indeed talking about Jack the Ripper. Now, I can't vouch for the actual demonic qualities of this letter, but the acts this serial killer committed are heinous enough to earn it a spot on this list. Along with half a human kidney, this letter was sent to George Lusk, who had been leading community efforts to find the elusive murderer. It reads as follows. From Hell. Mr. Lusk, Sar. I send you half the kidney I took from one woman, preserved it for you t'other piece I fried and ate, it was very nice. I may send you the bloody niff that took it out of you, only wait a while longer. Signed, catch me when you can, Mr. Lusk. Legendary. This would prove to be the turning point in the case, although not from the viewpoint of the investigator. No, this is when the Jack the Ripper case really took off in public popularity, and from there was no turning back. It still remains one of the most well-known serial killer events of all time. And finally, at number 1, SMS, sending much Satan. You know I had to make that joke, I had no choice. Maybe the demon of bad jokes is sending you guys messages through me, who knows. Here's the deal. There's a Polish Catholic priest out there who was involved in an exorcism and is convinced that a demon has possessed the body of a teenager and is sending him evil, hateful text messages. As though teenagers don't just do that on their own. But for real, this priest has gone to the press with stories of awful texts being sent to him, all originating from a demon who has made it into the physical realm and discovered the capabilities of modern cell phones. Stuff like, she will not come out of this hell, she's mine, anyone who prays for her will die, and shut up preacher, you cannot save yourself, idiot, you pathetic old preacher. Classic. How would you even go about responding to some of those messages? You know, maybe send a nice cowboy emoji a couple times. I plucked an assortment of messages in different formats for today's video, hope you don't mind. Hell doesn't wait for anyone, so if it wants a message to get out, it'll find a way. So what'd you think of the list? Do you agree with my picks? Which message from hell keeps you up at night? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more lenient ones from the top 5 real scary Wendigo encounters. Ian McFarlane says, bone white skin, bald head, dark black eyes, and humanoid face. That sounds like me, though when I'm found on all fours, I'm usually pretty drunk. Damn, Ian. Sounds like you like to party. Jexer says, 9 years later, and Anansi's Goatman story is one of the few creepypastas that still holds up. Oh, it's a classic, that's for sure. And Marciana says, Wendigos originated in Canada, where most Amazing 10 studios are. Most of their hosts are terrified to know this, but not Keegan. Does he know something? Not sure I appreciate what you're implying. And that is all the time we have for today. I am going to find a cursed object and keep it under my pillow for months. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Fell off. Stay on. Come on. There we go. Okay. I send you half the kidney I took from one woman, preserved it for you t'other. I send you the bloody niff that took it out. I may send you the bloody niff that took it out of you, only wait a while longer.